welcome to Hardfire. I'm Ronald Wieck. Tonight we're bringing you another show devoted to the exploration of 9/11 conspiracy theories. We're going to concentrate on the collapse of World Trade Center 7. World Trade Center 7 is something of a stepchild among these theories because the building was not hit by a plane and it collapsed 7 hours after the attacks. So we have two guests tonight who I think are uniquely qualified to discuss this subject. My first guest is Arthur Scheuerman. Arthur was a member of the New York City Fire Department for 20 years. He retired as a battalion chief. He's written a book on the collapse of the Twin Towers, Fire in the Skyscraper. It's available through .com. He also has a chapter on World Trade Center 7 in the book, and it's lavishly illustrated, well worth your attention. My other guest is probably familiar to you, Mark Roberts, a 9/11 researcher extraordinaire. Mark has published numerous papers on various aspects of the events of 9/11. He has a paper specifically devoted to World Trade Center 7. It's entitled The Lies of the Truth Movement. He shows how quotes are taken out of context and sometimes distorted grotesquely. But he will tell you more about that in the body of the show. I'd like to begin with Arthur. I'm going to read a quote from his paper on World Trade Center 7, and he talks about the establishment of a collapse zone. The anticipation of collapse was a brilliant conclusion, and no lives were lost when the 47-story building collapsed about an hour and a half after the evacuation order was given. The BBC somehow misheard the orders to evacuate the collapse zone and reported the building had collapsed well before it actually did. Now, Arthur, it sounds to me like this is an extraordinary feat by the fire department to avoid any more loss of life on this terrible day.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you abandon a building and it's an uncontrolled fire, there is a possibility of collapse, no matter what kind of building it is, you know, if the fire is bad enough. And the collapse zone was like, how many feet was it?
About 600 feet, just about the height of the building.
600 feet.
World Trade Center 7. I want to lay to rest a canard that's been floating around for years, and every time you think that it's dead, it resurfaces. You used the magic word pull. Now, Larry Silverstein said to a fire chief, in view of the tremendous loss of life, maybe the smartest thing to do would be to pull it. Rational people understand him. He meant, let's get these men out of harm's way. They're in a dangerous environment, an unstable building. Let's pull the contingent out.
I think the chief probably told Silverstein, we want to pull our men out.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't
Do you have
asking
any
for
reason?
permission.
The final report on 9/11 is but there's already a fierce battle on the airwaves and the internet.
Call for quiet on the set.
Live, free or die.
Good evening, and welcome to Hardfire. I'm Ronald Wieck. Tonight,
A community TV station in New York hosts a regular program aimed at debunking conspiracy theories.
We're wondering about these.
They had a big head start. When I got involved in this in April of 2006, there were already over 1 million pages on the internet devoted to 9/11 conspiracy theories. There
is nothing that could falsify beliefs.
Yeah, it's a religious
Purely faith. In other words, there is simply no evidence that you could show them.
The entire game is being selective with them. It's picking little anomalies out. Some of them are big anomalies, the way they see them, but not connecting them in any coherent way. There's no coherent hypothesis, and we keep asking for one. How does this fit into any larger theory?
In the UK on the 6th of July 2008, the BBC aired a documentary titled The Conspiracy Files 9/11 The Third Tower. At a little under 7 years since the attacks of September 11, 2001, this programme attempts to solve what the BBC considers to be the final mystery of 9/11, the reason for the collapse of World Trade Center 7, a building that was part of the World Trade Center complex, but however was not hit by a plane. Despite the implied unbiasedness of the documentary makers, it is obvious that the BBC would never air a show that tries to tell the viewer that the official story is incorrect, or at the very least that it is dubious. This means that while presenting actual evidence relating to World Trade Center 7's collapse, the creators would have to eventually push the official story as the only possible explanation. I'd like to present one instance where the BBC have manipulated evidence in favour of their argument to promote the official story that fire and structural damage caused by falling debris from World Trade Center 1 and 2 weakened World Trade Center 7, allowing it to collapse under its own weight.
And the owner, Larry Silverstein, has also been accused of being part of a huge conspiracy to destroy the buildings. It all stems from a TV interview when he used the phrase, "pull it."
I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. And I said, you know, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull.
I ask every viewer to come to their own conclusion about the language Larry's using and the emphasis.
Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it.
My personal response to his comment is that he was involved in a decision to bring the building down, but who knows?
The documentary is pretending to be unbiased by showing Larry Silverstein's potentially damning confession of his involvement in the demolition of World Trade Center 7. However, it purposefully omits one key line from the original footage. Here is the entire clip.
I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. And I said, you know, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
Notice how the last line from Silverstein reaffirms that when he said pull it, he is referring to the building and not the firefighters or rescue workers. However, the BBC chose to remove this short remark twice, as it does not support the official story. It is very important to hear that he says, "And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse." From this wording he has made a direct connection between the word pull and the collapse of the building, as if one directly affected the other. However, the BBC chose to ignore this as it does not validate their argument that Silverstein meant pull the firefighters out. I welcome others to point out the manipulations involved in this BBC documentary.